Could the incoming Trump administration be planning to retake control of the Panama Canal? On the 21st of December 2024, President-elect Donald Trump stunned international observers by posting a message on his social media network threatening Panama over the way it's running the strategically vital waterway. This, in turn, sparked a tough response from the Panamanian president. But as the war of words escalates, questions are now growing about whether Trump may even be ready to launch a military invasion. So, what exactly lies behind the issue, and why has it suddenly come to such international prominence? Hello and welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is James Ker-Lindsay, and here I take an informed look at international relations, conflict, security, and statehood. Strategic waterways play a vital role in international relations. Connecting major oceans or seas, these narrow bodies of water can significantly shorten shipping routes, reducing time and costs for global trade and providing crucial routes for military forces. As a result, they're often the focus of geopolitical tensions as countries compete for influence over them. One of the best examples is the Panama Canal. Located in the Republic of Panama, this 82-kilometre or 51-mile waterway links the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, dramatically shortening the 13,000-kilometre or 8,000-mile route around South America. However, while the canal is essential for international trade, it holds a unique value for the United States. As the largest user, accounting for roughly 60% of the canal's traffic, it's crucial for transporting agricultural products, industrial goods, and energy supplies. It also provides a vital passage for the military, allowing the US Navy to move between the east and west coasts. All this makes it economically and militarily essential for the United States. While indigenous peoples had long inhabited Panama, our story starts in the early 16th century when Spanish explorers first charted the country's coastline and looked out across the Pacific. Over the following centuries, Panama became a critical part of the Spanish Empire, emerging as an essential trade route for transporting gold and silver. But all this changed in the early 19th century. As Latin America rebelled against Spanish rule, Panama broke free in 1821, becoming a part of the newly established state of Gran Colombia, a union of several former Spanish colonial territories. But while this collapsed a decade later, when Venezuela and Ecuador became separate independent countries, Panama remained under Colombian rule. Although the strategic value of a waterway across the Isthmus of Panama had long been recognised, it wasn't until the construction of the Suez Canal linking the Mediterranean to the Red Sea that serious efforts began to build a similar canal in Panama. In 1881, construction started under the guidance of Ferdinand de Lesseps, the French engineer who had built the Suez Canal. However, the project was beset by problems from the very start. In addition to significant engineering challenges, it was also affected by widespread disease and mismanagement. As a result, work was abandoned in 1889. Despite the difficulties, the United States was nevertheless keen to keep the project going. However, Colombia rejected a proposed treaty allowing the US to continue construction. In response, Washington supported Panamanian rebels pushing for independence from Colombia. This came to a head on the 3rd of November 1903. As a revolt erupted, the US prevented Colombian forces from intervening and Panama declared independence. Just under 2 weeks later, on the 18th of November, the US government signed a treaty with the new Panamanian administration. In return for guaranteeing the country's independence, the United States was granted complete control in perpetuity over a 10-mile or 15-kilometre wide zone surrounding the canal. Paving the way for work to resume, the canal was completed 10 years later, in 1914. While the completion of the canal marked a turning point for global trade, resentment amongst ordinary Panamanians steadily grew. Apart from the significant US influence over the country's internal affairs, the zone, which operated under US law, enjoyed special privileges and became significantly wealthier than the rest of the country. All this came to a head in 1964 when protests erupted. While these were eventually suppressed, widespread opposition to US domination continued. recognising the damage that this was doing to US interests as it became a potent symbol of American imperialism during the Cold War. President Jimmy Carter opened negotiations on the future of the canal. On the 7th of September 1977, the United States and Panama signed an agreement. This was composed of two main elements. First, following a period of joint administration, Panama would gain complete control of the canal on the 31st of December 1999. Secondly, the canal would remain neutral territory. Ships from all countries, including military vessels, could use the canal freely. Crucially, this was also underpinned by a clause allowing the US to intervene militarily to protect the canal's neutrality, if so needed. From the start, many in the United States, especially from conservative Republican circles, opposed the agreement, arguing that the transfer amounted to a dangerous surrender of US interests over a vital asset that the US had built and paid for. Moreover, there were fears that Panama, as a small and unstable country, would be unable to oversee the canal's security and maintain its neutrality. This was seemingly confirmed following the death of Panama's military leader, General Omar Torrijos, in 1981. In his place, a new strongman emerged, General Manuel Noreiga. Under his control, Panama rapidly became a corrupt and violent criminal state and a hub for international drug trafficking. As a result, the US invaded the country in December 1989, overthrowing and arresting the general, who was later sentenced to 40 years in a US prison. With Panama now under democratic control, preparations for the handover of the canal continued, and the transition was completed as planned on New Year's Eve 1999. I hope you're finding this useful. If so, please consider giving the video a like and perhaps subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It all really helps. Thanks so much. And now, back to the video. The successful handover of the canal marked a critical turning point for Panama. Since the transition, its position as a global trade hub has steadily grown. This was further enhanced in 2016 when an expansion project significantly increased the canal's capacity. However, while relations with the United States were initially good, tensions have emerged over the past decade. For example, the US has frequently expressed concerns about corruption and the lack of transparency in Panama's financial dealings. This came to global attention with the publication of the so-called Panama Papers, a scandal that revealed how Panamanian entities had been used to facilitate worldwide tax evasion. On top of this, there have also been differences over the canal. Specifically, these have been fed by two distinct factors. First, there have been concerns about increasing transit fees. Citing rising maintenance costs, the expense of the canal expansion project, and issues relating to climate change, such as reduced rainfall affecting water levels, the Panamanian government has raised tolls for vessels using the waterway. All this has disproportionately affected US shipping, which in turn has led to complaints from US businesses. Secondly, there's a geopolitical element. For many years, Panama recognised the Republic of China, usually known as Taiwan, instead of the People's Republic of China. However, in 2017, it joined the growing band of countries that have switched their allegiance. Since then, China has invested significantly in Panama, funding and building ports and other infrastructure projects related to the canal. In addition to feeding a general sense of US concern about the rise of China, it's also led to specific worries that Beijing may exert too much control over Panama and the strategically vital waterway. All this has in turn led to renewed complaints in some circles that the United States should never have given up control of the canal. It was against this backdrop that President-elect Donald Trump posted a lengthy message on his Truth Central social media platform on the 21st of December 2024, emphasising the canal's vital importance to the United States and the economic and human costs of building it. He insisted that Panama should administer the canal solely by itself and not rely on others like China. He also condemned the fees faced by US shipping and called for what he called the rip-off to stop immediately. In response, Panama's President José Raúl Mulino quickly responded. Setting Trump straight, he insisted that every square metre of the Panama Canal and its adjacent zone belongs to Panama and will remain so. As he put it, the sovereignty and independence of our country are not negotiable. Unwilling to let the matter rest, Trump soon shot back with another post saying, "We'll see about that," followed by another with an image of a US flag flying over water with the caption, "Welcome to the United States Canal." So, what does all this mean? Of course, given the aggressive tone of the most recent posts, the immediate worry is that Trump may be considering military action. For now, this seems unlikely. As observers have pointed out, Trump has tended to shy away from military engagements. More to the point, his campaign was centred on not embroiling the United States in overseas conflicts. Then again, as an issue fundamentally affecting US economic and commercial interests, an area Trump focuses on particularly closely, this may well be an issue he sees as being directly relevant to the US in ways that other issues aren't. Of course, any aggressive moves to reclaim control of the canal would likely face significant international opposition. It would also certainly violate international law. As observers have noted, the 1977 treaty governing the return of the canal doesn't allow for unilateral military action to reclaim control of the canal zone. Instead, observers argue that the incoming administration has many other avenues to address its concerns. First, it could pursue diplomatic negotiations to discuss the fees and limit external influence over the canal. The problem, of course, is that relations have already been soured, making such negotiations much more difficult to pursue. Another route could be to consider some form of a judicial solution, such as arbitration or mediation by a third party. Indeed, Article 14 of the 1977 treaty explicitly allows for such options. The question, of course, is whether the Trump administration would want to go down such a route. Thirdly, there are economic measures. The new Trump administration could introduce sanctions or even offer Panama economic incentives to try to force it to bend to its will. The question is whether any of these would work or whether Trump has in fact set his sights on taking this further. In the meantime, this odd and somewhat surprising spat over a matter that many thought had long been solved has become another significant question about the effects of a second Trump term on global politics. I hope you found that useful. If so, here are some more videos that you might find interesting. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.